We're going to talk about sex in movies and how it's dropped dramatically. I'm going to pull up the report here. All right, so this is from Stephen Follows. What he does is he gets contracted once in a while to basically look up data, the data that's out there, and come to conclusions. He was asked about sex in movies, and this is his conclusions. A couple of years ago, I looked into whether erotic thrillers were indeed dying out, or if it was just availability bias due to the fact that the main examples which come to mind were mostly from the 1980s. Rachel Lloyd from The Economist asked me to look more deeply into this, which indicated a decline in the levels of sexual content in movies. This prompted me to update and deepen the data set to help us examine what's happening and speculate on why. You can read Rachel's article in The Economist. We looked at the top 250 grossing films since the year 2000, so this century, tracking the levels of sexual content via signals from film rating bodies and film databases. So he's saying he didn't watch these movies to see if they were had nudity in it. He relied on film ratings and film databases to get that information. Yes, I believe you. There are more details on the methodology and criteria at the end. Okay. Over time, the sex declines. Comparing each year to the baseline of 2000, we can see a steady decline in the amount of sex in feature films. By 2023, it had fallen by almost 40% from the start of the century. So you're seeing the decline here.
Yeah.
Other vices are also declining. In wanting to understand this better, the first thing we may ask is, are other types of objectionable material also declining? Using the same method of looking at the signals from ratings and feedback from movies, we can be fairly sure that no levels of drinking, drug, violence, and swearing have not seen the same decline as sexual content. And you see it here. There's the red line of sexual content and then the other lines of others. What's behind the decline? At this point, I'm sure you're wondering if it's a reduction in the intensity of sexual content, i.e. the same number of scenes with sex, but with more sedate level. Or is it a case of fewer sexual scenes overall? So is the intensity of the sex declining, or is it just the removal of sex scenes? The answer is clear. It's the latter. The best driver of this reduction is in sexual content across the board is the increase in the number of movies that eschew any scenes of a sexual nature. In short, there are more movies which are squeaky clean. Let's stop here and we'll get into the reasons why after this. But yeah, what are your thoughts about this so far?
Dude, it's not even just a decline in sex scenes, man. It's a decline in romance.
Mm-hmm.
We're not even getting like romance in movies anymore, much less boobs. You know what I mean? No, really. I mean, anytime there's an opportunity for like a romantic interest in a film, it gets cut, right? Because the woman has to be a girl boss, right? She has to be her own independent woman and doesn't need a man, right? So we're not even forget sex. We're not even getting romance anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I've been definitely noticing that a lot lately. A lot over time. But there, as much as America is divided, there seems to be this intense need to not show men and women together romantically, which is kind of the foundation of civilization. You kind of need men and women to get together romantically in order to perpetuate a civilization.
Okay, but really quick, with that said, though, I have noticed an increase, though, when it comes to homoeroticism in movies, right? Plenty of that now, but yet a decline in heterosexual romance in movies.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'll go sociologically deeper. When you see the increase of homosexual LGBT relationships versus just straight, man-woman relationships, if I were to go the conspiracy route, there's always been this discussion of population control, and it seems like that we're promoting the relationships that don't increase the population,
right,
while downgrading the relationships that do increase the population.
Point in case, tarot, right? In tarot, there was a loving lesbian relationship, right? The heterosexual couple broke up before the movie even started. It started with them having already broken up that morning, right? So
Yeah.
there was a heterosexual couple that broke up before the movie even started, but you had this this loving lesbian relationship, right? Throughout the whole film. It's just that's where Hollywood is at right now, though, right? And so when I hear like there's a lack of sex, of course there's a lack of heterosexual sex, because like I said, there's a lot of homoeroticism, a lot of homosexual sex. There is not a lot of heterosexual sex anymore because it goes against agenda.
Yep. All right, let's move on and let's see. Okay, so what type of movies is the trend most apparent? Declining trend is present in most movie genres, but it's most intense in thrillers and action movies. Thriller and action movies seeing sharp decline in sex scenes, basically. And the least apparent is among romantic movies. You're seeing a bit more of it in the romantic movies, obviously.
Also, I need to throw this out there too. There's also a correlation with the fact that the need for Hollywood to portray men as weak, right? Because weak men don't have sex, right?
Yeah.
Weak men don't have sex, right? And now men in film have to be weak. They have to be weaker than the woman that they're playing opposite against. Yeah. So that's another reason we're not seeing it.
Well, I would say that weak men can't get sex. Right. Okay. Here's an interesting chart from 2000 to 22. They're showing the gender makeup of UK cinema audiences by genre. I think so. Music. So over here, the orange is female, the blue is male. Musicals. Women like musicals. Women like romance, family movies. Music movies, animation, comedy, and then where it gets kind of equal is drama, biographies, fantasy. What is this one? History, adventure, and then we get into where the men start taking over: mystery, war, western, horror. I would challenge horror for a moment, but sports, thriller, crime, action, and sci-fi. Found that interesting there. But let's see, why is this happening? The data can't give us a single definitive reason, but there are a number of things we could suggest are playing a role. Changes in audience taste. Modern audiences, particularly younger ones such as Gen Z, might have less interest in explicit depictions of sexuality. Damn, Gen Z, you're ruining everything for us. Instead, there is a growing preference for content that either avoids sexual themes altogether or handles them with more subtlety. Shifts in cultural norms, social movements, and heightened discussions around consent and gender representation have likely contributed to a more cautious approach to including sex scenes in films. Producers and filmmakers may be more sensitive to how sexual content could be perceived and potentially lead to controversy. Interesting. Global market considerations. Films that perform well at international box offices tend to favor content that can translate across different cultural norms. Explicit sex scenes may result in a more restrictive age rating or censorship, hence reduced film potential reach. Streaming age. With the rise of streaming services, which offer tailored viewing experiences, there may be less demand for sexual content in wide release films. Niche productions and series on streaming platforms where content can be targeted and controlled might absorb the demand for such material. So you're saying that you're not seeing it in movies, but you could potentially see much more nudity, intense sexuality on streaming, as they can focus that to a niche audience.
And that's true, and it's fair because I do see a lot more on streaming than I do in the theater.
Yeah. Outdated stereotypes. The trend could also be a rejection of outdated stereotypes where sex scenes were often objectifying and presented through predominantly male gaze.
There it goes. Yeah. There it is. Right there. Right there. That is the one. The male gaze, right?
Yeah. I mean, let's bring back the word common sense here for a second. But yeah, I think nudity in movies appealed more to men than women. And that the way nudity and sex scenes were constructed was to please the male audience, and then transfix them into such the male gaze.
But you know what? You want to know a dirty secret though? Women love those movies too.
They do, but
Women women beat off people. I'm sorry, I hate to break that to you. Women
we're
beat off, and they like those movies just as much as we do.
but I would liken it to Star Wars. Women like Star Wars, but not like men like Star Wars. In terms of where the money comes from, you're not hoping to capture the female audience.
Actually, no,
You're
no, no. I
hoping,
say they cater to women more than men. Because men, if you look at it, women, when it comes to like what they like to read. They like stories, right? A
Mhm.
movie gives them a storyline, right? Men, we watch clips, right? I'm sorry, I don't know one guy who's watched a porn all the way through. Give
for
me
the
a break,
plot.
bro. Give me a break. It does not happen, man. Like, it doesn't happen. Women like a storyline. So those movies are catered more to them than even us.
Yeah. I mean, does the AVN have a category for best plot?
I wish they did. I really wish they did.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, do women like nudity? I don't know, because there was a producer that hated Sydney Sweeney's boobs. So do they really? I don't know. Let's see. Let's
If Sydney Sweeney's with a really hot guy, I think they'll excuse her boobs.
yeah. Okay, so let's move on to 6 and 7. The availability of adult content elsewhere. I think that's pretty simple. Yeah, you can, if you really want nudity, you can get to it. It's not that hard. Uh, and the rise of intimacy coordinators. This is an interesting question. As the film industry addresses past issues of harassment and improper onset behavior, the role of intimacy coordinators has gained prominence. Their presence could be discouraging gratuitous sex scenes unless they have a critical narrative purpose. I looked into this a few months ago, and below is the key chart. Percentage of live action movies where at least one intimacy coordinator credit. So here's the year 2020 or year 2020. No movies had an intimacy coordinator credit. Here we go. We're at a 0.25%. Here's a little over 0.5%, 1.2%, and then 2%. So the rise of the intimacy coordinator is there. I will say this about the intimacy coordinator. There's a really good movie about it. I think it's called Another Body or something like that. But it kind of goes into the history of it. And if you want to see a movie with a lot of celebrity nudity in it, that's a great movie to watch. But I get the point of why it was created. There have been times that actresses come on set and they realize, oh, you're doing a nude scene today, and that they were okay with doing the nude scene, but all of a sudden the parameters of that nude scene changed, and so on and so forth. And there was this need to protect the actress so that she goes into the nude scene with 100% clarity of what is required of her and why that nude scene is so important to the movie. I get that, I understand that, and I'm for the most part for that. But what's happening now, from what people have told me about intimacy coordinators, a lot of times these intimacy coordinators will talk to the actress and encourage her to question whether that is necessary. She may have been all for it, and now they're going to call a question about it. Say, hey, maybe instead of doing this, doing that. And so now you have intimacy coordinator who is directing the sex scene before it even happens. And I think that's where the issue is coming today. And I think a lot of that is as to why that maybe that there's an industry of intimacy coordinators who are actively involved in reducing the number of sex scenes that
Okay,
are
you know what?
in
I would
movies.
I would believe that more if I like I said, I see a lot more sex scenes on streaming than I do in the theater. So I mean,
Mhm.
but it's happening. It's what I'm trying to say. Like the sex scenes are happening, right? But we're talking theater. We're talking going to the movies and seeing, sex or boobs on screen, whatever. I agree. There was a problem with back in the day with we all know the casting couch and
Mhm.
actors, directors, maybe doing things they shouldn't have done with actresses and putting them in bad positions. Look, we can all agree that's bad.
Yeah.
I mean, let's add a little nuance here. We acknowledge some of those were bad situations, right?
Mhm.
But I don't think that's the reason, that like the real reason why we're not getting that today in the theater. I think it is more because of the male gaze, right? I think it is more that situation. I think we're living in this time where we need more girl bosses and more women who are, you know, who don't need intimacy, who don't need sex, who don't need,
Mhm.
romance, right? And I think it's more of that issue, more so than, the Me Too of yesteryear. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Because okay, that explains things back then. I mean, what about now though?
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is the controversy of this culture war that's going on here. But the controversy surrounds this idea of what are the roles of men and women. Are men and women truly different, or are they truly equal, or is there a happy medium in between there somewhere?
Well, let me
And
let me let me
so,
give you a great example
yeah.
here. Like, if I guarantee you, if someone wrote a script right now, they made a movie where it's a love story between a straight man and a trans woman, there would be zero problems. That movie
Mhm.
will get released. It probably wouldn't even be edited. It would just come out. It would be right there because it promotes what they want, right? Like
Yeah,
you'll probably see that more so than you'll see, a woman and a straight man and a straight woman these days.
yeah, yeah. The other thing is, yeah, I mean, you mentioned it before. I think it in terms of nudity, uh, it's definitely skewing more male than it is female. I remember the beginning of last year, especially after seeing the Northman. Um, but at that point, I realized I've seen more penises on screen than I have boobs, and
Yes.
and mind you, boobs count twice. But you saw that even Sasquatch Sunset has Bigfoot peepees in it. Um, it's yeah, it ultimately comes down to this. There is this fundamental crisis that's going on between men and women, and what a man is and what a woman is, and how they relate to each other.
Euphoria is the most sexualized show I've ever seen, right?
Mhm.
And for a show that's purely about sex, especially that second season, all you saw were balls and dicks.
Mhm.
And only one actress ever got nude in that whole show. You want to guess who that actress was?
Oh, I know who that actress was.
Yes, Sydney
Yeah.
Sweeney, the only actress in the show full of women, right? Was the
Mhm.
only one to get nude. Every other nude scene was from a guy.
Yeah. And because ultimately it has to come down to how much money do you want to make. uh this is the reason they had nudity in movies, because guys would go out and see movies with nudity in it. you know and it's when we talk about Hollywood dying, and I'm not saying that what will save Hollywood is more nudity, although
Don't hurt
but
it.
yeah,
Don't
although
hurt it.
yeah. But it's the fact that Hollywood has no idea who their audience is, and the fact that it's not that they're not researching the actual audience that comes to their movies. They're researching the audience that wish came to their movies, and that's what we're seeing now. And that's why Hollywood is dying. That's why the movie industry is that's why the money's not there. And apparently now that's why certain websites and streaming seems to be capturing those, because it's offering what people want.
Well, look, I'm not going to say the film industry is dying because there's no nudity. I'm saying, but it's a part of the problem. It's a
Mhm.
part of the reason. There's a lot of other issues with Hollywood as to why movies aren't making the money they used to make. But that's a part of it, though.
Yeah.
That is a part of it, man. It's the again, not the fact that we just need to see nudity, but the fact that now you can't even have it.
Mhm.
It is weird, man.
Yeah, I know there are actresses kind of who are pushing against this. I forget, there was one where it was at South by Southwest where she just basically said, I forgot who it was, but it was like, "Do you want an intimacy coordinator?" And she said, "No, no, I trust you guys. I trust you to do what we agreed to do." and she did it, and it was fine. And
dude, yeah.
The intimacy coordinator, I agree with the original intent of it. The idea was to avoid Me Too situations, and it was also, there's nothing wrong, and I think it's admirable to allow women to understand fully 100% what is expected of them, and to fulfill that. It's when it oversteps,
that absolutely should happen.
When it oversteps that bounds, that's where the problem comes in. That's where, I think, it's this narrative, the message that starts winning, and and according to this, these things, that's what's causing studios to shy away from sex scenes and shy away from nudity, and we're not, let's take nudity out of it. They're shying away from sex scenes, and as you say, also they're shying away from romance. And it's a shame because if anything, what movies do is it reflects our lives, it reflects society, it reflects culture. And now we're seeing movies trying to influence culture, trying to judge culture. And that's the problem I have with everything we've ever been talking about with the change that Hollywood's going down.
Dude, we talked about the movie Challengers last week, man. And again, there was more romance between the two guys than any of them and Zendaya,
Yeah. Oh my gosh. And I don't want to go back to that movie, but the way they shot it, it's one thing to shoot a conversation between two men, but the director went far and beyond just shooting a conversation between two men. The way they looked at each other, the
way they were always this close to each other's faces, right?
It might have, rather than have a conversation, they might as well have been kissing, which they did in the movie. All right,
but just the once.
Yeah. Final thoughts on this subject, and we'll get to comments.
Look, I think this is just the way it's going to be. I don't see this changing anytime soon. In fact, I see it getting worse because, like I said, any kind of romance or any kind of connection between two heterosexual people is going to become more of a thing of the past. I think, we'll get a few things here and there. Like, we get the Fall Guy, right? Mm-hmm. We get this cute little love story. But that's the best we're going to get, is a cute little love story, right? Where they don't even kiss, right? Or they kiss like once or twice in the whole film, right? Because that's what happened in the Fall Guy. So we'll probably get that, but that's all we're going to get.
Okay, I'll defend Fall Guy. The movie's about building up to the kiss. That's the whole point. That's what makes a romance. You hold it off until the very end.
Yeah, no, I'm saying, but that's the best we're going to get. We're not going to get anything more than that.
Yeah,
in major Hollywood anyway. Maybe indie films, sure, but not in big budget movies.
Yeah, I mean, even Marvel and Star Wars had romance.
Well, they used to.
Yeah, used to. Before Endgame.
Right.
Yeah, I mean the whole, with Gamora dying, that was a love story.
Sure.
That my final point is that I think
you can't count anything pre-Endgame, man, or pre-Endgame.
Oh, yeah.
It's that doesn't matter anymore, right? Mm-hmm. It's all post-Endgame now.
Yeah, I mean the way they ruined what was it, Thor and Padme, Thor and Padme. It was a love story, those first two movies, and then it wasn't. Yeah, I'll just say that I think Hollywood is lost. I think they are so in league with the DEI grift that the only hope is really the indies. And I'll just say this: A24, Lionsgate, A24 definitely has nudity in it. Lionsgate, you could make a lot more money bringing nudity in it. I don't know if you saw, what was that movie? I can't remember it.
But that's why those studios are winning right now, though.
I'll tell you about the movie later. Yeah. Let's go. Let's do this. Comments. That's my final thoughts.